Hello and welcome to the Human Frequency. At the end of our last episode, I made a little slip up. I said for people to come check out our Etsy store, and what I meant was our store on our website. We are not on Etsy anymore. We've been off of there for well over a year. Now, I still get emails from Etsy from time to time, mostly about their service and policy updates. And I actually received one just this morning that relates very well to an episode that we did over a year ago.
And that episode last year was called Surviving Hurricane Etsy, The Aftermath. And this episode elaborated on an update we did about Etsy shutting down our store. This shutdown was due to a complaint by Karl Welz, who has trademarked the word Orgonite. Many people know about this who have tried to sell Orgonite online. So we ended up with a big fiasco over this so-called trademark, with our store being shut down with no notice to us, and all of a sudden having to shift everything to our own website. We realized that Etsy wasn't a safe place to do business. It was a legal mess, but it only lasted a couple of days. It was a legal mess for Etsy. And that's what this episode is about, is what Etsy actually did to themselves when they did this action against our store. We never pursued any kind of legal action or trying to get money for the downtime or any of that. But we know now that Etsy had to make some changes because of this. That's why the email today on the policy updates.
Yep.
We've had a ton of problems with Etsy over the years, which is why we moved to our own website. There's an episode you can check out called Etsy's War on Small Businesses, Creativity, and Women Entrepreneurs. This was almost 2 years ago, in July of 2017. So it's been a while since Etsy started making life very difficult for craftspeople and a lot of Orgonite makers. A lot of people sell Orgonite on Etsy, and some of this is really good Orgonite. Some of it is just decorative stuff that isn't real Orgonite, but it's all kinds of stuff. And a man named Karl Welz trademarked the word Orgonite back in 2003. And that's where this whole thing started. So let's just talk a little bit about the Orgonite trademark to start with, because I think that that's something that everybody wants to know about. Well, Karl Welz trademarked the word Orgonite in 2003. He did not patent the device Orgonite. He just took a word that he says he made up, and this is what it describes. I did a lot of research on this back when they took down our store due to his complaint. So you can go back and listen to those episodes about the Etsy's attack on our store and the aftermath and how we regrouped from that. But that was something that happened over a year ago, and he had even contacted us before that and said, don't use the word Orgonite. You're not allowed to. And we emailed back saying, okay, we won't use the word Orgonite. So we used Orgone pyramids and Orgone pendants. But the thing about Orgonite is that anybody can make it. It's easy. It involves the basic ingredients, crystals, metal shavings, copper coil, and a catalyzing resin. Very basic, and like a recipe, something like this can't be patented. In the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, you can't patent a recipe for food because anybody can put these ingredients together and make this food. So it's something that anyone can do. The word was in use by other people prior to 2003. And for some reason, all of a sudden in 2003, after George Ritchell and Don Croft had been selling Orgonite online, he trademarked the word. You cannot patent Orgonite. So he took the word and then he started attacking anyone who sold online with it. And now he will contact you if you're doing it. He will threaten you. And if you don't want to take that word off of your page, if you're working with an e-commerce site, you could have trouble. He could tell them that you're using his word. He also offers licenses to use the word for $500 a year. So this shows that he has a financial interest in it. That's probably all it is. We don't even know if he invented Orgonite.
Yeah, he claims that he invented it, but there's really no evidence of that I've seen.
He claims to have been using the word in commerce since 1995. He also has trademarked the word in regards to what he calls a psychic energy magnet, which is not really what we're using it for. We're using it to generate orgone energy and neutralize DOR sources. All this is in our other episodes too, you can check out. But what I noticed was that Karl Welz puts on his website, he doesn't want people selling fake Orgonite. That's not the genuine article. His Orgonite, he says, works right. It does what it's supposed to do. And if you don't make it like he does, it's not Orgonite. Now, what ends up happening is if somebody pays for that license, he doesn't actually care what you're selling under that word. So it doesn't even have to be like his. He just wants the money. And when you look at what people are calling Orgonite with the trademark sign, they paid for it, you will see all kinds of different things. So it's not actually true that he cares about the integrity of the object. He wants the $500 a year.
Once he gets that license fee, he doesn't care what you're making.
So in March of 2018, our shop was shut down and we contacted them. Well, they first contacted us and said it was a trademark dispute. So we knew what was going on right away. Karl Welz had complained. And we did a lot of emailing with him too. And all this is in those past episodes. You can learn the details. But we did let Etsy know, Gabriel emailed them, and let them know that what they did was illegal. And why don't you just describe a little bit about what you said in that email?
Yeah, well, I was taking care of all of the correspondence. And again, this is over just a few days' time. This wasn't like a long, drawn-out thing. But I emailed Etsy regarding this illegal action of theirs, that they were just taking this guy's word for it. We didn't have the word on our store.
We actually took it off. We were saying Orgone pyramids.
We had complied with his request, and they shut down our store anyway, just based on his word, without actually looking into it themselves and seeing that there was no violation of any sort. Anyway, I got in touch with them, and they didn't do anything about it. They said it was up to Karl Welz to take care of it. So we ended up leaving anyway and shifting things to our own website after that, just because we couldn't deal with
these kinds of...
Yeah, the revenue loss. Mm-hmm. We couldn't deal with the drama. So.
Right, because our work is not really about selling anything. This is just how we fund what we do and gift and do education. And if we have to deal with something like this in a big legal mess, we don't have time to do anything that we really do, which is gifting and researching and writing and that kind of stuff. So we couldn't deal with it anymore. Yeah,
so we shifted the store to our website. After that was all done and things kind of calmed down for us, that's when both Sharon and myself sent legal letters to Karl Welz informing him that this was illegal and you will not do this again and there will be legal consequences if you do so.
Yeah, because this was a fraudulent claim, because we took the word off at his request. It was a demand, but let's be realistic that it is actually a request, not a demand. You cannot claim ownership of English language, of language in general. Orgonite is a made-up word. Who made it up? Karl Welz said he did. A lot of people have been using this word for a long time. Whether or not he made it up, he doesn't have the right to a word. It just doesn't work that way. But this is complicated stuff legally, and if you want to know more about the legal stuff, we do episodes on business law, and everything we know is out there. So you could check that out. But I could tell you right now that he had no right to it. A lot of people blow him off, by the way, and they do it anyway. I've seen it on other people's websites. It's only on these e-commerce sites that you really have to worry a lot about that, because the e-commerce site has, they have agreements, they have contracts with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and they have contracts with all kinds of entities within the government. So if you're using their site, you're going to be subject to their rules and policies. But we did send the legal letters to Karl Welz, and we told him pretty much that we were voluntarily not using his word. What he did was illegal, to make a fraudulent claim against our store. And he never got back to us. We just told him to cease and desist, and that we would voluntarily comply with his trademark. We don't do that anymore. We don't comply anymore. We don't need to. We decided we didn't need to voluntarily comply with it. So our website uses the word Orgonite, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm. And concerning this email I got, I'm actually going to read the email verbatim. The subject line was changes to our intellectual property policy. And to quote here, we clarified how Etsy, as a marketplace, handles requests to remove listings that may infringe on someone's intellectual property rights. This includes Etsy's right to take appropriate action against those who submit fraudulent or improper requests or counter notices, unquote.
This email actually had several different updates in it. This was one of several.
Yeah, it had 6 or 7.
It was different changes they were making.
The other ones didn't apply to us, obviously, because we don't have a shop on there anymore. But I just found this to be very interesting that this was included well after our incident that we had with Karl Welz.
Yeah, because when this happened to our store, and I know this has happened to other people's stores on Etsy because there's message boards about this, and this has been a problem for Orgonite vendors for a very, very long time, since 2003. That's a long time that Welz has been taking people's shops down or demanding money to keep the shop up. It's all about money for him.
Just generally harassing people.
At that time, when this happened to us, Etsy just took his word for it. They didn't look at our shop to see that we didn't have the word in there. And so there was really no legal grounds for what he did. I actually called the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and asked this question. How could that happen? They mentioned the metadata. This is something I wanted to ask them about because there were tags. So I asked about the metadata, the tags, Orgonite, that you couldn't see. It was invisible, but it would guide people to your store. Because you can do that on Etsy. You can put these invisible tags on there like Orgone Energy, quartz, things like that. And we put Orgonite, but it was hidden. And they said that was a gray area, kind of like, don't do it. Well, because of the way our businesses are registered, we can use the word Orgonite anyway. And that's more of the stuff you can listen to in our episodes on the business law. But we can use it if we want. We voluntarily did not visibly have the word, but it was in the metadata because when we edited out the word Orgonite from the listings, we didn't remember about the metadata. We didn't touch the metadata. So there was a tag. Right. That's how he found the shop. He had the shop taken down, even though the word wasn't visible. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office representative said it was a gray area. I wouldn't do it. But the fact is that Etsy reinstated the shop, and we said we took out the metadata. So all it had to do was point to it, and the shop was getting penalized, even without the word. So there's all kinds of this stuff to think about. But if you are in the situation where the business is registered properly, you don't need to worry about any of this.
Well, the part that really bothered us was that in our case, we were guilty until proven innocent. They just took his word for it and didn't check it out themselves. And in my mind, that puts them at a huge legal risk.
That's probably why they did this.
Right, because they need to do their due diligence too. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of at the crux of what this email was all about. But back then, I just emailed Etsy. Like I said, I told them, check the listings out yourself. There's no violations in there. Everything's fine. But yeah, they wouldn't take action. They said it's up to him to lift the complaint. And unfortunately, we did have to get legal with Karl Welz, and he finally did clear the shop.
He was very aggressive in these email exchanges. He was very unprofessional and very unbusinesslike.
But he had no legal leg to stand on. So even though he took a sweet time doing it, he eventually closed the matter.
Well, it took a few days, and Gabe also sent legal notice to Etsy. And, if your business is registered like ours, I'm just going to clarify this real quick, but the way we registered our businesses, we each have our own. We registered our legal names as the business. And by doing that, it totally severs any of these obligations. Everything becomes business, and you are protected and your business is protected. And we have the episodes. If you want to know about how we did that, just listen, but please just listen and don't ask questions because I put everything I know in there. And people ask me all this stuff, and I'm like, it's in the episode. There's not much more to say. I know it sounds really, really simple to say it's all there, but it is actually a very simple process and a very simple idea. It's that your understanding is going to have to undergo a total transformation. You have to do this 180 in thinking, right?
Yeah, but we've already said everything we know, and there is, in fact, nothing more to say.
But because the legal name is registered in this way, and that's how we do business, Gabriel was using his business to run the Etsy store, and he sent the letter. He explained very clearly that the CEO would be at risk if they didn't fix this problem because they were adversely impacting the business revenue. And that's all there is in business. It's all just revenue revenue loss. It's all just about contracts. If there's no contract, you can't interfere. If the contract says that there's something there that you can get involved in that business, you can do that. But there was no contract with Etsy that said that they could just take some random guy's word for something and shut down our business for a few days. So anyway, this is important stuff to know, that these legal letters work if you understand the law, and you could take on any company no matter how big. Gabe had a thing with YouTube, because Gabe does the YouTube channel. I don't touch YouTube or Gmail because of my jinxy fingers.
Don't say that.
If I touch the computer when one of those things is on, then everything gets censored.
Well, I know that you're a little paranoid about that, but
but Gabe knows how to get them to stop censoring you.
Well, yeah, it takes a knowledge, but it also takes a confidence, and we've seen this work time and time again, and that really clues us into how these things operate. It's everything is business, and everything in business is voluntary.
Absolutely.
And everything is based on either the presence of a contract or the lack of one. And that's all there is. And, the interesting thing is that this is all kind of a moot point, because we ended up getting rid of Etsy and going to our own website, so it didn't get dragged out into a fiasco. But the fact is that over a year later, we're seeing the ramifications of that incident, and they have to kind of revamp their policy now.
It's fascinating.
It's very interesting because, like you say, Sharon, these companies are very secretive.
They are,
and it's hard to really get a line into the brains behind the operation.
Absolutely.
If you know what I'm saying. But this little email that I got was just kind of just a teeny little window into that, and that's what was so fascinating.
Well, you send these legal letters and you don't know what's going on the other end. I sent a legal letter to Google. I found out their corporate headquarters and said, "Attention, legal department." This was because my emails to people, to any Gmail accounts, anything from thekembo.com. So my current email is sharon@thekembo.com if you want to reach me. That's easy to remember. But there was a period of time where any of these emails from thekembo.com would be sent immediately into junk mail on the Gmail accounts. And I know that was their way of trying to get people not to see my messages and to damage our business. Because, as I said earlier, we entirely get by on our gifting work through people either donating to us or buying Orgonite from us. And so they know that without sales, we can't get by. And when people would ask a question about the Orgonite, I would send an email reply and they wouldn't get it. And this happened enough times, people would tell me, "Oh, I saw it went into junk." I'd have to call. I had a radio interview offered to me. And I emailed back the host, and they never replied to me. And I eventually said, maybe I should call them. So I tried calling in, and they said, "Oh, yeah, never got it.
Junk mail.
Went to junk mail." So I had this problem so many times with Gmail that I wrote them a legal letter to Google, "Attention, legal department," and I sent certified mail, and I explained that all of the domains that my company owns must be whitelisted because they are negatively impacting the business. If these emails can't get through, I lose sales, I lose media appearances. And anyway, I wrote up this letter with all the different things that they were doing to harm the business, and I never heard anything back from them. And I included in there that a non-response would constitute acceptance of the terms. Well, my emails aren't going to junk anymore because I'm getting replies back. And The other thing that happened was, it was very interesting. After this first happened, I got my first bounce back from a Gmail. I never had a bounce back before. I had my emails go to junk, but they'd go through. I got a bounce back. And so I removed the link I'd added. I put a link in that message for someone. I removed it, sent it again, and just explained where to go online, and it went through. So the bounce back showed me that was because there was a link in there, a website. But the junk mail I was never informed of, and I never got a bounce back until I sent this legal letter. And since then, I have gotten no bounce backs, and I've gotten responses from people with Gmail accounts. So it worked. I did the same thing to Earthlink, but I thought, Earthlink, you guys just need an email. Earthlink was blocking everything that I sent from any of my domains. And I said, "Webmaster, we got a problem. You can't block these domains because of the moving IP address, because we live in the boondocks and we use satellite internet. And it always thinks we're somewhere else, which I love because they never know where we are. Right. Sometimes they think we're out by the Salton Sea, out in the desert. Sometimes they think we're somewhere near Bakersfield or down by the Mexican border. And I just like that. But Earthlink blocked all my domains because of that. And I said, well, you're just going to have to whitelist. They blocked the IP addresses. So I said, you're going to have to whitelist the domain. Well, they did, because now my Earthlinks go through. And when you explain the legal matter that they can't harm your business, it's really quick to get results. I think anybody with a registered business of any kind could probably do this.
And it doesn't matter if only 7 people on the entire planet use Earthlink anymore. I mean, this is in 1998.
That's why I thought an email was good enough. I didn't need to. I thought Google deserved a legal letter that was certified mail, but Earthlink just deserved an email.
They did. But the point is, it doesn't matter what the company is. It doesn't matter how many lawyers or staff members they have or how much money they've accrued.
They have no more power than our entities.
Exactly.
Oh, exactly. I wanted you to talk about your YouTube story. I know we talked about this before, but just a reminder of how cool it is not to get censored on YouTube and how easy it is not to get censored.
Yeah, our video a while back.
The Spanish Fort transgender rape hoax.
Yes, thank you.
They didn't like that one.
Gee, I can't imagine why. Yeah, they didn't care for that particular piece of information getting out. So I got a letter. I think this was in November of 2017, if my memory serves me correctly.
We were in LA. I remember that. We were on the road.
I got an email saying that someone had reported a privacy violation of some kind, that there was content that was not allowed in there, and that I had 48 hours to remove it or respond. I honestly don't even remember the email, but the gist of it was that they're threatening to take down this video and I have to take action. So I emailed back saying that this complaint was made in error. There's just stills from the episode of 2020 that we put in there, and just Sharon and myself talking over it. We're reporters, and we have given our consent to be used, our footage to be used on this episode. And I referenced that this channel is operated by a registered business entity. Please see the registration number or ID number listed below. I gave them all the info. And I said, since this entity earns revenue based on YouTube content, any removal of videos on this channel, especially when they fall within acceptable YouTube guidelines, will result in a court action against the CEO of YouTube.
Yeah, you got to threaten the CEO.
Diane, I don't even remember what her name was, but
it doesn't matter.
I put it.
You also threatened Josh Silverman of Etsy.
Yes,
you got to do that.
He is the CEO, or was the CEO of Etsy. I don't know if he still is, but the point is, you go after the CEO, and I said there will be a court action against Diane, whatever her name is. And I said something else about how this matter will be considered closed now. And they got back to me 2 days later saying, we've reviewed the whole thing and we've decided that this is exempted from this.
Right.
So they basically retracted the whole thing.
So,
but without admitting that, without admitting that I was right and that they had no legal leg to stand on, because they can't admit that.
No, that's right. These companies are very secretive, and you're never going to know what's happening in those boardrooms. I'm telling you, they're scared of people who know the law. They're scared of people who understand business and know that their company, Google or Etsy or any of these companies,
PayPal,
all of them. Oh, PayPal too. I had a thing with them a while back. I think that might be on an older episode.
I think so.
But
the result
they don't
is
have
the same.
any. They don't have any more power than your company does. If you've registered that legal name as a company, it has more power than theirs. I think if you have a company that's registered, that's like, a name like Java the Hutt, then it has probably a similar amount of power as Google or Amazon or something like that. But if your legal name is the one that's registered, it has more power. That's something you're going to have to learn in the other episodes. And like I said, everything's there. Please do not ask me a ton of questions because it's all there. Just absorb it. Just let it soak in. because it's really important to understand that the name is a business. That's what this comes down to. And you know that Clash song, Know Your Rights? It says, know your rights, you have no rights. You have no rights. Only your business does in that system. You have no rights in that system. You've got to operate the business and stay out of it. Anyway, this was a little window into how these boardrooms work, because they had to make a company-wide policy change at Etsy because of these problems, because they were doing illegal things, and we called them on it, and perhaps someone else did too. It's possible. It can happen.
I think so. But the key here is don't let these companies intimidate you.
Exactly. It's very, very simple to take back your power. You pretty much have to remove yourself from this, run your business. Everything is done between businesses only. There's nothing personal there, and everything is just based on contract and nothing more. And if one business interferes with another and there's no contract allowing that sort of behavior, then it can't happen. So anyway, that's what we learned from Etsy today. It really, really does work to stand up for your business. If you're an Orgonite seller, I'm sure we're not the only ones who did this. People have been challenging that trademark. The problem is they don't know how to really challenge it. The best way to challenge it is just to set up your business like we have so that it's not subject to that law. And then you're good.
Basically, yes. Yeah. And it's very simple. I know everyone thinks it's so complicated. They don't want to get involved in legal stuff. That's too confusing. It's actually very simple. Yeah, we just have to change our way of thinking.
Yeah, but if it's confusing to you, I don't recommend you do it. And that's really important, because let's not make your life a nightmare here. If you don't understand the basic concept of registering your legal name as a business and understanding it's not you, it gets paid, you work, but you're not involved. I know that sounds strange, doesn't it? But somebody has to operate the business. So you have to operate it, but in the legal world, you don't exist. So it's just existing there, and if anybody messes with it, they're in trouble because it's been registered with the Secretary of State. It's official. It's official in their system. You've taken it and you've given it legitimacy in their world. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with God's world. It has nothing to do with anything real. But in that realm of fiction, you have taken back everything. Nobody can screw with it anymore.
But if you don't understand it, you shouldn't get involved. Period. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah. If you don't understand it, then you should just work at your job, let them take out the taxes, and move on with your life. Because this is also not about tax evasion at all. That's a misperception. I get a lot of tax evaders emailing me too, and people who want free money and they want to wipe out their debts illegally. I don't handle that kind of thing. You just got to own up to your business's responsibilities. Anyway, thanks so much for listening. This was an important opportunity to once again show how we can tell these big companies to lay off. And if we understand the law, they will have to. There's no reason to feel afraid to do business. If you'd like to check out our work, our website is thekembo.com. Our work is not really in the world of business. We just happen to understand this stuff. Our work is actually in orgone energy and Orgonite and gifting the environment with Orgonite to change the climate back to a life-affirming, earthly climate that we are now restoring. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you again next time.